My name's Kira Gamble, and I work with KnowledgeAdvisors, clients and partners in the Europe, Middle East and Africa region. So the aim of this session is to give you a demonstration really of what Metrics That Matter is all about. You may have heard of it as our learning analytics tool, but also to give you a better understanding, hopefully, of what learning measurement is all about. I know we have people that have come by our stand and said, you know, what do you guys do, and what is metrics all about? So hopefully I'll be able to give you some more information to help you better understand that, but also to share some of the insights that you can gain from having an effective measurement program to be able to improve your learning programs in your organizations. So in the interest of time, obviously we've only got half an hour, so if you do have any questions, I'd ask that we will have a short Q&A at the end. And obviously you're very welcome to come and visit us at the stand around the corner, number 14. So first of all, just to introduce a little bit about learning measurement, we at KnowledgeAdvisors believe that learning measurement accomplishes two basic things, really. First of all, it automates quality control for L&D. So if you've got a streamlined, integrated approach to gathering and reporting data across 5 levels of learning, this will allow you then to be able to improve your delivery of your programs, the content itself, and the learner selection. Also, secondly, you're providing that governance and stewardship around how you actually report information back to the business to be able to show the impact of your learning programs and ultimately the return on investment. And it's the old adage, really, isn't it? It's what gets measured gets managed, and that's very true. So just a little bit about KnowledgeAdvisors, first of all. We were founded in 1999, so we've been in business for 14 years now. We have recently become part of a much larger organization called CEB, or Corporate Executive Board. You may have heard of them. They're a leading member-based advisory company, so our solutions very much complement each other. So here's a sample of clients that we work with who have successfully built measurements around the programs that they're working on, their talent development programs, using our learning analytics tool Metrics That Matter. So in the 14 years that we've been operating, we've learned a few things, obviously, around learning measurements. And one of the things we've learned is that there needs to be standards. And that's really important, to have a standardized approach to measurement. And that really starts with how you evaluate your learning programs from the start. So at Metrics That Matter, we have something called really our core technology is the professional learning evaluation, which answers the 2 basic questions that we think should be answered as part of your evaluation. So first of all, can we improve the learning experience? And secondly, does learning lead to increased performance, which is ultimately what you're looking for? And actually, let's face it, organizations are spending a lot of money on their learning investments, and they are expecting some kind of workforce improvement. So it's really being able to show that. So we have a library of what we call Smartsheet evaluations, so which goes way beyond the typical kind of happy sheet that I'm sure we're all familiar with. And these are rooted in the industry-recognized frameworks of the likes of Kirkpatrick, Phillips, Brinkerhoff and Bursin, all whom have worked on our advisory board with us. So the Smartsheet evaluations gather indicators around the 5 levels of learning. So we're looking at not only learning quality, but also the knowledge transfer, job impact back at work, business results, the impact against the business results, and ultimately return on investment, whether that's financial or non-financial. That then all gets fed into a number of reports that we have on our system. We have over 100 reports in the system. And those reports can be automated, and you can compare the results using our built-in benchmarks against other organizations that perhaps are running similar programs or might be in the same industry as yourselves. So it gives you that point of reference to be able to compare. The other aspect of this is that a lot of what we do can be done on a standalone basis, but many of our clients choose to work with us to integrate what they already do around their LMS platforms. So what this means is that you've got a streamlined administration solution, really. So we can integrate with LMSs to provide student information, the enrollments, and so on. So you've got all that information. You haven't got to duplicate any effort. The other common need that we've found amongst our clients is that they need to be able to give their executives and stakeholders timely and concise information that's displayed in a way that's really easy for them to understand and is visually appealing as well. So we produce this in the form of reports, executive reports, and dashboards. So the evaluation data that we gather, combined with other business data that you might collect from other systems, such as HR systems or CRM systems, give you a complete picture of your talent development programs. So things like, obviously, efficiency of your operations, effectiveness of content, delivery, business outcomes that are being driven. Really, so you're truly demonstrating the value of L&D to the organization. And one of the sample, if you want to drop by the stand later or come and see me afterwards, I've got a sample of an executive report that I can share with you. Give me your email address, I'll make sure that's sent to you. Of course, measurement doesn't end with just what goes on in the classroom. So we find that a lot of our clients choose to work with us around some of these other areas, such as tests, conference evaluations, social learning, multi-rater, employee surveys, and so on, which really allows then for a completely holistic measurement process. So that's really an introduction to learning measurement and how we see that. But one of the things that we find working with our clients is that people are really starting to gather a lot of data now, and you're probably finding that in your own organizations. You know, it's not just the data around your learning programs, there's other related business information as well that can really get you to look at a good picture. But they don't have the ability or the capability to be able to use that data to get the insights that they need to be able to improve their programs and so on. So what I was going to do now is just share some report examples with you and some of the insights, some of the actionable insights that people can gain from using metrics that matter. The first level that a lot of clients report at is at the class level. So you imagine, you know, you've got a leadership program going on, for example. The program starts running, you've got people attending classes and so on. And then after that class, they will be then sent an email with a link to the evaluation, which they can complete online. And then all that class information can be readily available. And they can be scheduled to run and sent out via email automatically. And alerts can be set up so that if any of the scores fall below a certain level, then you are alerted to that straight away, which means obviously that you can then make some decisions around what you do to improve your learning programs. And we found that organizations that don't automate at this level are likely to be spending a lot of time on sort of transactional activities around this. So whether it's gathering the data, trying to make some sense of it, manipulating it in Excel, all those things take a lot of time and resource. And we're finding now that as L&D departments are shrinking, that they need to be able to have that automation to be able to free them up to do really what they're good at. The other point, as I mentioned earlier, is around the benchmarking. So we find that a lot of organizations feel the need to be able to have some relevant point of reference to be able to compare their results and their performance against other organizations. Or they can benchmark internally as well. So amongst our client base of MTM users, we have now over 1 billion data points, which allows you to basically be able to compare a variety of results in lots of different ways. So whether you're looking at by industry, by learning program, by region, all those things we can look at different benchmarking, so you can compare that. And the traffic light system makes it very easy to see what's below benchmark, above, and what's on benchmark. We all know as well that it's a good idea to gather qualitative feedback in the form of learner comments to get insight. But again, this can take a long time to do and a lot of resource. So we basically go to this from a very scientific perspective. We categorize and report comments according to sentiment. And this means that many of our clients can then use that information to make the relevant improvements to courses based on that learner feedback. One of the big areas that I know people are becoming very familiar with is the whole concept of scrap learning. So i.e. learning that's wasted. So you might go to a learning program and use not even half of what's in that program when you go back to work. So we call that wasted learning scrap learning. And one of the insights that can be gained from having a measurement solution is around your levels of scrap learning. And in the example here, you'll see that the overall scrap learning percentage there is 17%, which is quite low. If you think that the average is up to sort of 50%. And it's then broken down into the different types of program. So in this particular part of the report, it's looking at e-learning as being one of the top levels of scrap learning. And it will also make recommendations as to how, in this case, you can change processes and so on to be able to support people when they go back to work. So that's the kind of information that you can get from a sort of class-based level. Also from an executive level, they don't need to see the detail. They don't need to see the detail of who went on what course and what the individual comments were necessarily, but they do need to have the overall summary information that's visually appealing and easy to access. So we provide dashboards which are available on iPads and smartphones, and that information is then displayed in a very graphical way so that you can have instant insights into some of those areas. And we can also feed other information into those, so they're completely configurable. An effective measurement solution will always have good alignment with the business. That's again something we've learned. And here are some examples of reports that help show business impact. Many organizations may not be ready to start looking at this yet. You know, they might be only reporting at certain levels, but it's really good to be able to see this if you're at that level of measurement maturity. So the data from this is obviously collated from the Smartsheets that I spoke about earlier, but it's also possible to use things like learner demographics, which is quite useful, and data from other systems to give a really full picture. And finally, reports can be used to predict the impact of learning back at the workplace. If you imagine, you'll see here that you've got 3 columns. You've got post-event, follow-up, and manager. So if you're on a learning program, you'll get your post-event, which is sent to you, I don't know, the day after the learning happened, for you to evaluate your experience during the learning process. But then we can automate follow-up evaluations to come 60, 90 days later, not just to the learner, but also to the manager. And it's that reporting that will be able to really give some insights into some of those areas, including at the bottom there, return on investment. So where that is important to any of our clients, we do recommend that they use the reports that calculate both financial and non-financial return on investment. So that's really an overview. I hope you found that informative and useful. I've left some time, 10 minutes, for some questions, so please visit us at the stand, or please ask me some questions now. Thank you. Okay. The question was, how do we measure business impact? There's lots of different metrics involved with that, obviously, but a lot of that is to do with how it's followed up 60, 90 days after the event, to look at actually what the feedback is from the manager, but also from the learner after they've been able to put those skills into practice. And if you look at programs like leadership, for example, those skills aren't going to be transferred immediately. It's going to take time for them to be embedded, and obviously for the business impact to be recognized further down the line. We recognize as well that in terms of business impact, learning may not be the only thing that contributes to that. So we do use roughly reasonable data to be able to make good predictive and estimates around that, very conservative estimates, and we still find that, you know, there's a good percentage of that that comes from learning generally. Does that answer your question? Thank you. Yes. Okay, I'll repeat the question so everyone knows. So the question was, in the 60 and 90-day follow-up assessment or evaluation, how much of that is sentiment and how much of it is other factors? Yeah? Okay, so the 60, 90-day follow-up, some of it is based on actually how people feel about the learning that they've completed and how they've been able to use that, but also from the manager feedback as well, and how they feel that they've been able to put those skills into practice and ultimately make an impact on their day-to-day job and ultimately the KPIs. So what we try and do is work with organizations to look at what their KPIs are and use those as measurement tools. So we're very much aligned to the business goals. Okay. That's great. Thank you very much for your time, everyone. Enjoy your afternoon.